The best way of summarizing the very dramatic, extremely dramatic developments in our country over the last few hours is as follows, and it's a very brief sentence. This is how panic looks like. Exactly. This is how panic looks like. Because even if we're to stick to the very basics, you know nothing about security. You know nothing about security protocols. You know zilch. Since when did the military chief address the public on a political issue in a country that is democratic? It is not under military rule. Since when? Please give me one example, not two. You see the situation in Kenya today, there is really only one word to use to describe it. Bila emotions, bila my feelings, just sticking to the facts. There's only one word you can use. Confusion. Confusion. Total confusion. Because sample the following. We have a problem in Haiti. And Kenya has sent, wait for this one, the police to deal with the Haiti problem. And then they have left the military in Kenya to deal with the local civilian problem. That is how a foreigner would look at it. And it's factual. Because you have the Chief of the Defense Forces, General Charles Kahariri, talking about the Ruto must go chants and warning Kenyans that whatever they do, it must be constitutional. Okay? And then at the same time we have our policemen who have families. These are fathers, these are brothers to people. These are the sons of Kenyans dying in Haiti in an external operation. So, in other words, the two have switched roles. The military are now local, the police are now foreign and external. Isn't that how it looks? Amma, explain to me. Maybe I don't understand. Simplify it for me. Explain to me. Hey, folks, this is not good. We have never sunk this low. Never. And to make matters worse, one would have thought, before, our military chiefs were people who had not gone to school. Okay? The Akina General Mulinge, may his soul continue resting in peace. Those were people who didn't go to school. And so one would have assumed that since these former generals hawakusoma, they may not have been able to interpret the constitution properly. They may not have been able to keep military protocol. Yeah? Doesn't that make sense? But what do we have here? These days we have in the military people with PhDs, master's degrees. But then it seems now they cannot interpret our very clear, simple constitution that was deliberately written in simple language. It's not written in legal language, which everybody can understand. One would have thought that now more than ever before, we should have people who can interpret our constitution properly and act properly. And when they stand to speak, to always remember who they are, what position they hold, and what they should say and what they should not say. One would have thought that. But then the truth is, looking back at the era of the General Mulinges, those guys were very professional. General Mulinge never even one day talked politics when he was in the military. Never ever. Even at the fight for multi-party democracy, General Mulinge never came out even one day to warn the opposition to be careful that whatever they did in trying to remove Moi, because there was a time everybody in the country was saying Moi must go, Moi must go. These days we are saying Ruto must go. Not even one day did General Mlingi come out and tell the opposition that they must be careful in the way they are saying Moi must go. They must be careful to follow the Constitution, not to try to remove Moi unconstitutionally. That never happened. So I don't believe my ears and I don't believe my eyes that it is happening now, when the people in our military are educated, when we are supposed to be much more advanced than at that time. In my opinion, what has happened over the last few hours is the most shameful, the lowest our respected military has ever gone. Folks, I'm afraid that is nothing but the truth. But now let us break it down. Let us try and dig a little deeper to find out what is really going on here. Because yes, this is not good. Yes, this is very disheartening. And this is very disturbing to any peace-loving, patriotic Kenyan. Okay? But let us dig deeper and try and find out what the crux of the matter is here. What the problem may be. Okay? Now all this was unfolding at something which was also unprecedented in our country. And that is the intelligence community coming out for the first time and holding an open talk, trying to interact with the public. That was a very good thing. No doubt about that. And it is totally unprecedented in our country. And of course, the intelligence community had some very interesting things to say, very educative, about how intelligence the world over has changed so dramatically, with technology especially. Okay, things have really changed, and how they must now adopt to the new environment, and adopt very quickly, because things have changed very quickly, actually much more quickly than anybody was prepared for them to change, and therefore they have to play a game of catch up. That was all very nice. However, there was a problem. This is happening when our spy chief, the head of our intelligence, recently has been named by a cabinet secretary who has now been fired, Justin Muturi. Remember what Justin Muturi told us? Justin Muturi mentioned the name of the intelligence boss in connection to the abductions, and more specifically the abduction of his son. You see, he had to make calls, he had to go to State House, and these are the people he interacted with, and he definitely mentioned his name. Now, this same Justin Muturi had been fired just a few hours earlier. Timing is everything when you're dealing with the public. Upende usipende, timing is everything. Now this man had just been fired, and of course Kenyans were remembering what he had told us. And then the spy chief, looking very professional, is addressing the nation, trying to tell us 1, 2, 3. What? How does it look? You tell me. How does it look? Will anybody take him seriously? Because at the back of the minds of Kenyans, they're asking themselves, na hii mambo ya abductions ilikuwaje? Imefika wapi? Why was it happening? Why was the intelligence service, the people are supposed to protect us, protect the lives of Kenyans, involved in these abductions, where we know for a fact that many young people lost their lives? Why? So that was one big issue. Actually, many issues, not just one issue. There are many, many issues there. Kenyans are asking themselves many, many questions. Okay? But let us cut to the chase. Let us hit the nail on the head. Okay? Let us not dilly-dally, play around in the periphery. Let us just go to the crux of the matter here. Folks, it appears is that what has very clearly happened here is that the executive has dragged in the security into day-to-day politics. And it would seem that the executive has done this while they're in a state of panic. Let me take you back to what happened a few days ago. President Ruto went to Naivasha, Safari Rally Manenos. Now the crowd at Naivasha, not very many Kenyans can afford, especially now, to leave what they're doing and to travel all the way to Naivasha by whatever means, but many of them went with their private vehicles, to watch the Safari Rally, a sporting event, the Safari Rally. In fact, a sport that is followed by people with money. There is absolutely no doubt that rally fans are middle class and high income, wakubwa, people with money. So Ruto goes there and people start shouting, Kenyans start shouting, Ruto must go. Okay? And so President Ruto decides, let me go and watch Kenya playing Gabon. At the stadium. At least there, I know Kenyans are minding their own business. I'm sure they're very excited about the match. They will not be so concerned about me. At least the last thing I expect to happen is for people to jeer me. So the president rushes to the stadium. Then what happens? The Ruto must go chants are even louder. As soon as he's seen entering the stadium, Kenyans immediately burst out, Ruto must go. Now, let's step back for a minute and analyze this. What is it telling us in very clear language? What is the writing very clearly on the wall? The high-income Kenyans, the upper middle-class Kenyans, and the low-class Kenyans, because we had Kenyans who tried to get into the stadium, many were successful, without paying. These are low-income people. These are people from Kibra, Mathare slums, etc., etc. People also in the low class are also shouting the same thing. Ruto must go. Bottom line, right across the board, Kenyans are singing only one song. Kenyans are chanting only one slogan, not two, one. And it is, Ruto must go. What does that tell you? It tells you very clearly that Ruto, President Ruto, has lost the mandate of leading the country called Kenya. Because you can never lead people against their will. It can't work. And the last time I checked, this is not a government by force. It's not a military government. And therefore the only way you can rule people is by the mandate of the people. And therefore if you look at it this way, it is easy to see how there was panic. And very super fascinating. Just before this open day of the NIS, we had some very interesting information in the press from the NIS. Their concern over the increased chance of Ruto must go. I'm sure many of us remember that. And now everything falls into place very neatly. Okay? The executive panics, and the executive orders the security people to come out and clearly scare the Kenyan public. Scare them, and hopefully, if they succeed in scaring them enough, this chance of Ruto must go will at least reduce. Especially when the CDF comes out and says himself that actually this chance of Ruto must go. We must be careful to operate within the constitution. What he was actually saying, bila kizungu mingi, is that the chance of Ruto must go have now reached a place where they are unconstitutional, against our constitution. Now. Is that factual? Of course it isn't. It isn't. In our constitution, the same constitution is talking about, there is something called free speech. In fact, there's a Kenyan who made us laugh, but at the same time made sure that we will never forget that our constitution starts with the words that the sovereign, that is the public, are supreme. Yeah? They can exercise their power either through elected leaders, including people like Ruto, okay? Or they may, you remember people laughed when he said may, they may exercise the same power directly. And therefore the chance of Ruto must go are the people of Kenya exercising, it is the sovereign exercising their constitutional right embedded in the constitution of exercising their power directly. And they're doing that by saying they don't want Ruto. Ruto must go. End of story. Isn't it that simple? Oh boy. Oh boy. I am sure patriots like the late General Jackson Kimeu Mulinge are turning in their graves. If they're able to hear, unfortunately they're not able to, but if they are able to hear what is going on with the military they left behind, that actually something has happened in Kenya today where the military are dealing directly with the public. As of June 25th, 2024, which was a Wednesday, yeah, when the military came out for the first time from the barracks, it is still not clear why, okay, to deal directly with the civilians, the employers, the people of Kenya. Since that day, this is what is happening. And meanwhile, the police, they have switched roles with the military and they are now in Haiti operating, okay, helping the country called Haiti. Oh boy, God Almighty, help the nation called Kenya. Because these things are very clear. It is black and white. There is no gray area. The protocol is very clear, has always been very clear. The military is supposed to defend the country from external threats. It's very clear. And the police are supposed to enforce the law, the constitution internally. What is so difficult about understanding that? Huh? Tell me. I'm afraid this is a total mess. Hey, a terrible mess. Indeed, it is good that legislator, Busia Senator, Okiya Omtata, has released a detailed statement which has very clearly outlined what our constitution says and how our constitution has recently been breached, ignored, misused, misquoted for political expediency. Now, if you've not yet taken in my very latest special report titled The Next President of Kenya, and indeed if you've already taken it in, if you go back to that special report and then you look at it alongside this very latest unfortunate development, you will begin to understand the nitty-gritty of how Kenya is operating these days and where we are and how the situation is very crazy for motherland. Now you can see details on your screens right now. For only Kenya shillings 1,999 or $16, you can get this very valuable special report. And not only this special report, other very relevant special reports to this latest development, including the assassination of the immediate former Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, General Ogola. It is super fascinating, in fact more than fascinating, that particular special report, highly controversial, highly sensitive, that I put together so many months ago, has stood the test of time. And therefore this is a very valuable package that you must have. Okay, so please act quickly as we're in the final hours of making available this highly sensitive information. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.